Hello, here's some Strategery tips for attrition, fight, border replacement style games. The main principle is that games in attrition border mode are won in the opening moves. Within the first few moves you have pretty much won the game or you're losing the game, and it will be very obvious after about the third or fourth move. Your early game goals are to have the least border regions for the most number of hinterland regions. So border regions have neighbouring regions that are enemy, and hinterland regions are only surrounded by regions that are friendly. The method you will use is to expand your hinterland. You want more hinterland with the least lengthening to your border. In your opening moves, your tactical priorities are to conquer a corner. A corner is important because it enables you to contain a hinterland more easily with a shorter border. You should also identify and hold choke points close to your corner. A choke point is where one region borders many enemy regions. You should expand into easily conquered space first, and also avoid early fights. Let your opponents knock the stuffing out of each other and then come in and clean up the survivors. So let's look at some examples here. This is close to an ideal opening situation. Why? Because in your very first move you can effectively conquer and control all these regions through here. That's your very first move. So that enables you to have quite a large hinterland region in here. This will be your hinterland for a fairly short border, and then at that point you can rotate around this feature here and either clean up through there or conquer into here depending on how the situation changes. This is also ideal because you are unlikely to come into contact with opponents wanting to attack you, because your opponents are essentially in this area over here, and the first opponent you're likely to come into contact with, the green person, is split down in the split across the bottom and the top here. Their forces are very split. So this is close to ideal. This situation is more difficult. From here, where is the corner that you go for? It's too difficult to get this corner, and it's too difficult to get that corner. What you might do is do some minor expansion into here in your first turn, and then wait and see what happens and look to expand in this direction once these guys have knocked the stuffing out of each other a little bit. But that's going to slow you down, because meanwhile you have the yellow threatening your left flank, and then you also have green threatening to come across and conquer this space in here. So by the time you've conquered this region through here, it's very likely that green is going to have an overwhelming majority and be able to beat you coming down this way. This is another situation to avoid, although you can basically within the first few turns seal off this area here and then look to expand out. The difficulty is your first turn is going to be very risky, because you have to clean up this orange and this green and potentially this green here as well. It might actually take you 2 to 3 turns to lock up this hinterland. You basically have pink, which will pressure you down that way and then push up here, and red, will be pushing down on the pink here, and will also be moving across into here. Now, this is the easy to conquer territory. You essentially have to break through this line of enemy through here in order to get to the easily conquerable territory. So this is a difficult map to play also. Here is another difficult map. The reason why this creates difficulties is because your blue forces are split between this upper area and this lower area here. This here is a slightly interesting map. My play here would be to conquer through there, carry on to here if possible, and rely on reinforcements coming into here and here. As long as I get 3 or more spots into each one of these provinces, then red is going to leave me alone and attack into pink. Then I would take probably this one and conquer in this pattern, and I would hold here in the first turn. In the second turn, it's quite likely that this orange province, these two orange provinces here, have gone and exhausted themselves into this area. So in turn number 2 you can basically come in and mop up this corner and seal up through here, at which point you can also start sealing up through here as well. Then you can also look at attacking through here and then into there, and coming up and holding this point. At that point you then have a border that stretches across and through here, and that's actually a fairly generous hinterland. This is an interesting map for many reasons. We are linked into the easily conquerable area down here, but unfortunately our forces are spread out in a long line. We have the possibility of capturing the top right hand corner around here and sealing that off. Unfortunately, the big hole here and here takes away a few provinces that would be in our hinterland, but I think I actually play this one and I'll show you what I do. The strategy here will be to hold here at first, then push into and conquer around this way, and hold here at first, but then look for opportunities to push into here, and as I carry my momentum through into here and see what happens. What's likely to happen here is, because green is split, then pink is likely to take this area here for pink and then move into this space. If I can do it without lengthening my border, I'm going to look for opportunities in this area by basically making a border around here if I can without lengthening my border. What we're going to see here is red is going to push up this way because it's will just naturally tend to deflect away from the other large enemy. It's not likely it's going to break through. It's more likely that large bodies like this are just going to push away from each other, and orange is likely to push around from here, is likely to push around into here. So I expect that orange is going to be a fairly dominant player in this area here, because it's going to take a little while for this to be cleaned up. So let's see what actually happened. Okay, so at this point I'm pretty much winning the game. Like, I'm not losing from here, and this should give you an example of how games in attrition border mode are won in the first few turns. Basically from this point onwards, unless I'm stupid, I'm not losing. Okay, so I hope that was a useful introduction to the opening moves of Strategery in attrition and border mode.